How you guys doing? Y'all doing alright? Y'all feel like reviewing a movie?
Let's do it. I'm going to hang the apron up. We're going to talk about some blockbusters.
Yeah. How about Star Wars for starters?
Let's do it.
So, we recently all watched... Oh, first, I guess introductions are in order. This is Bubba, talent. If y'all don't know him, y'all aren't paying attention. I am Josh. I film and edit most of the episodes. And this is Hunter, otherwise known as Johnny Galaxies. And he does musical directing on the show. And we all recently watched the original Star Wars movies. And now we're going to talk about them. Does anybody want to start off, or can I take the lead?
You go ahead, knock it out.
I got all these notes. One thing I really did notice, obviously everybody likes the originals better, or they're like the main ones. When you think Star Wars, you think, oh, the originals are the best. I think one of the key points in that is Darth Vader. Like, he's so well written and rolled out, you know?
What do you think?
I think one thing I found interesting, I don't know if he's as well written as like you would say, but I would say that he's consistent. Like, they keep a consistent...
Definitely.
See, with Darth Vader, especially even in the prequels, you can tell like he has the same speech patterns as Darth Vader, and I think that's really cool because there was times where he would speak, and I would be like, it sounds exactly how the Anakin would say it. I think that kind of shows you how much work George Lucas actually puts into the movies, and it kind of makes me sad to see these new ones, because I'm like, it's not that I think that they're bad necessarily, it's just like I wanted George Lucas to have a big part like he did in these, because it feels so tied together and very tight, and you see a character... How it's hard to explain, but you just...
And that's why we're reviewing movies, because we're so good at explaining them.
You just see how tightly woven his
No, I get what you're saying.
like even just like the speech patterns and just like the mannerisms that he had. Like, you saw Anakin do it in the prequels, and it was just like, whoa.
It is
full circle kind of thing.
Darth Vader has a very unique way of talking, and it's like kind of on that proper like evil scientist level stuff, but not quite there.
He was even, you know how like Anakin, he's like, yes, my master. Well, Darth Vader would say it's like, of course, my master. Like the same way he would do it, kind of like, I don't care. Like, right. Same kind of you could hear the attitude in his voice, the same way that Anakin did it. Yeah, basically. But the fact that they both could do that with their tone, and like he made it a point to do that. Like, that's very like,
yeah.
Just, you don't see that a lot. And when you have 6 movies, you don't see something come across that
distinctly.
Yeah, and just you can tell there's a lot of thought into it.
What's something else you saw about A New Hope that we can dig into?
Well, Danny, y'all want to share your opinions? I mean, I have notes here.
You throw a topic out and we'll see what we can do.
What do y'all think about Han Solo? Did y'all think he got better or worse through the 3 movies?
I'd say in Return of the Jedi, it really seemed like he had very few lines. And if he did, it was very just like that.
Well, in most movies, there's always like a comic relief, and I think Han was it, and probably C-3PO, because he did have a lot of good one-liners throughout pretty much all the movies.
Yeah, but I would say in the first episode, they had like plot details that they added, and in the second one, they even had like a little spin-off where it was just Han Solo and Leia, but like where there was parts where there was like more people than just Han Solo was just like, ah, good grief, or like, oh yeah, stuff like that.
That was spot on. I thought Han Solo was sitting right there.
For all you know, he could be.
I disagree with the whole comedic. I don't think they used Han
Yeah.
Solo as like he had funny lines, but he wasn't supposed to be a comedic character. I think
Yeah.
he played a big role in like
He kind of became. I thought it was cool how they made him like the damsel, and at the end of the fifth movie.
and he had like the attitude
Yeah.
to make it interesting.
But then after he comes out of that carbon chamber, he doesn't really have any.
He left his character in there.
Yeah, it's like he left his crucial points.
He was
in
getting
it.
Indiana Jones money at that point. That's what
Yeah,
it
he was checking out. He wasn't really into it at that point. Well, he said he wanted to kill off the character in the last one.
Well, he probably said even earlier on that he didn't see much more he could do with it.
Right. At that point, he was just there to make sarcastic remarks. But I think as far as the second one goes, he was one of the best parts of that movie.
Yeah, like the first one felt like Princess Leia's movie. The second one felt like it was based on Han Solo.
Right.
And then the third one was just Luke's movie. You know?
Yeah, the third one was just Luke
Yeah.
getting stuff done with intermissions of Ewoks.
Dare I say that all three of them were about Yoda.
Especially the first one where he wasn't in it.
Very true.
All about
Oh,
Very
exactly.
Yeah.
Especially that one. The whole franchise is just telling the story of Yoda. The Mandalorian.
I thought
He's reincarnated.
Yeah.
He saves the galaxy.
it's gonna be about Yoda and Mandalorian.
Yes.
I think in the first one, I kind of wrote off Han as, yeah, this is how I remember him. He's there. In the second one, he really stepped up to plate, though. And he didn't really stay on that level in the third one, but it wasn't like... I was looking at it critically.
Yeah.
If you just watch the movie, you wouldn't really notice that.
The third one is very interesting in the fact that, like, when you see Luke be like, I'm your brother, she's just like, oh, I've always known. Then he leaves and, like, to possibly go die. And, like, her reactions in that, there was just a lot where I was like, oh man, this is kind of weird. I guess it's outdated more so, but like there's a lot of stuff where I was like, they really like didn't put a lot of thought into like, I think like Han Solo and Leia in the last movie. Like the last movie, I feel like a lot of characters fell short.
In the I do agree
But
that
you
it is
do
a little
have,
bit
but
outdated.
you have to think about it this way though. You have to wrap all that up in one movie.
Right.
And it's so hard to do that. Like,
Well, at the time, they thought that was it. They didn't think he'd go back and make the prequels and then making the ones like they're doing now.
yeah,
They
it was
pretty
just
much
a big
thought it was
blockbuster. Yeah.
The trilogy was ended, and that was it. But now that the whole universe has been expanded, and you know,
Now he thinks he can just go back and remaster them and switch out some actors and throw in some CGI, and it's fixed.
I like all of his decisions as far as that.
The
Like,
CGI?
you know, I mean, you guys can say what you want, but I think it is cool. And I think, like, for a person of, like, how old is he now?
George
Like-
Lucas?
in the 60s, 70s.
Yeah, like, for him to be, like, that, you gotta have to think he created, like, most of the CGI that we had, like, at that time. During the prequels, he created most of that, like, and a lot of the stuff we have now, he's had a hand in creating, or like has, and I just think like that's just to him CGI, like all that stuff. He's just so like I think he really has a passion for
And
it.
That
And
was
so-
a big part of Star Wars, the effects. That was obviously, I got that written down here and everything. when the first movie starts and you see the Star Destroyer going over and you're like, whoa. Even like me rewatching that, like today, I'm like, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it still looks real.
That's cool.
100%.
So, obviously, movies are good on their own. I'm not saying special effects carry the movies, but that was a big part of it. I think even from George Lucas's perspective, he always wanted it to have that wow factor where people are like, well, that's crazy. And I think that's the motivation behind him going back and remastering them. And I think it definitely didn't have the effect he was looking for.
I mean, you can't say that you know what he's looking for, but I definitely think, like, as far as his background, though, you could definitely say that he's passionate about
The wow factor?
No, I wouldn't even say that. I would say it's more so that, like, he really cares about how real it looks and like how clean it looks, and he wants his movies to be appreciated and to not look cheesy as he gets into old age.
And that's exactly what going back and doing that did, though. The old effects hold up way better than the new ones.
I don't know, man. I think in a sense they hold up slightly better, or still. I mean, it's still like,
to me, watching some of the scenes, if you just put something there and you kind of go by it, it's one thing. But like in going into Mos Eisley, when they have the monsters or the things that are moving around,
right,
and the camera really focused on it, it was too much. Bespin, when you're going through Cloud City and it's just there as you're passing, that was good. And a lot of that, doing it just for the sake of doing it. We said, the third movie you've got Jabba the Hutt, and he's this big slug. Well, when you go back to the first movie and he's walking around, his character's not mean. He's not the gangster. It's more like, whatever, Solo. Yeah,
he just did it to do it
because he had an actor in his place, and then he did the CGI over it. And to me, that was doing it just for the sake of doing it instead of actually bringing more character build up or something else to the plate. He threw Boba Fett in there just so you had more Boba Fett. So I think
it is weird.
Wait, are you talking about the first time he did CGI?
Well, I'm talking, when he goes back and
first
does
one
it
when when Jabba shows up right before they take off in the Millennium Falcon and Han talks to him. That scene that wasn't in there originally, but then he put it in there because they had the CGI to make Jabba be walking next to him, and it looks weird. And it's not really. He didn't write that Jabba in the first movie the same as he had more time to bake. Jabba had more time to cook in the oven. By the time the third movie came around, he was like a gangster. In the first one, it's like you'd think it's a completely different character if you didn't know any better.
Yeah, because he's walking or slithering around. It looked
Han steps on his tail and he's just like, oh, Han stepped on my tail. Oh my goodness, whoa. He doesn't get mad.
Yeah.
Jabba would have gotten mad.
Do you think it was Jabba, or do you think it was another one of his brothers?
No, he called him Jabba.
Oh,
and that's what he acted like, one of Jabba's relatives from Clone Wars is what he acted like. He looked like somebody out of Clone Wars with the CGI.
Well, I mean, how many years in the future do you think the third movie took place after the whatchamacallit?
That's true. He probably got plastic surgery.
After A New Hope? I mean, we'd have to look that up and find out to know the exact timeline, but it's
probably at least
30 to 50 years. I mean, because you've had all the battles and everything, and then there's probably a year between Empire and that as far as what Luke's training is, because you're not going to leave Han in carbonite freezing for more than a year. You're planning to get him out. 5 years, we'll go get him. No, it's about a year.
He's a tough guy.
Yeah. He's not going anywhere.
I would say A New Hope to the whatchamacallit happens in 3 years' time.
Well, we can look that up. We're not going to argue about it.
Well, but just assume that Jabba gets bigger,
Well, yeah.
It's one thing, but his personality changes. It didn't even fit in then, because right before that, Greedo tries to kill him. And Greedo was sent by Jabba.
Well, I think it's more that he's like in the beginning. Jabba's like, oh yeah, okay. Like, he's a younger gangster. He's probably just inherited. I don't know the backstory, but like, or maybe he's been in the game for a while and like he's like hasn't settled down yet. Like he hasn't got the palace yet.
I don't
Could
think.
be.
Like there's a lot of backstory that we don't know, and like there could be backstory that he has decided that he wanted to have that led to Jabba being in that place.
Well, and a lot of it, you can only do so much with the film and with the time
When
you
if
got.
you
so-
Yeah, because
that-
dude, like look at all the stuff we saw in what was that movie that happens right before, literally leading up to the moment that Darth Vader invades the New Hope ship.
Rogue One.
Yeah, Rogue One, dude. No, there's no way we could have known all that happened, and like.
But that's different.
But you gotta think, there's tons of stories like that happening every second. in
Because
between
that's
things.
not necessary to understand why a character changed. And that, if that is true, what you're saying is true, and that means George Lucas expected us to go home and do our homework on a character that we didn't know may or may not exist. And at that point, it's just a bad decision for a character in a movie. And it slightly dented my enjoyment.
at the time that he did that though, he had already released the prequels, and I'm sure he had already had plans to make like stuff in between those movies because he was already working on the Clone Wars, wasn't he?
A part of that was.
And so I'm
probably-
sure he's like, I'm about to do all these spin-offs and stuff.
We're talking about the remake of the originals way more than the actual originals. So,
Because we watched the remakes.
right. If you haven't watched the remakes, you aren't gonna know what we're talking about. But George Lucas went back and added a bunch of special effects in scenes, and some scenes that he did but couldn't pull off the special effects for, he did it with CGI and then put it in there.
And then the money he made off of those releases of the original trilogy, then he goes back and makes the prequels. That's kind of the timeline I remember. So leave us a comment if we're wrong, which I'm sure you will.
Even if we're not wrong, we're gonna leave us a comment.
That's right. Just tell us how great we're doing.
The humor. Might as well bring that up. I do not remember. Of course, I was a kid when I watched them, but I do not remember it being that funny. Like, it was really, they were on it.
Fortune and glory, kid. Fortune and glory.
No, I mean, to me, C-3PO was, I guess, as a child watching that because you never really saw the robots or the droids or the things. The human aspect was something else, but
I thought it was so creative, the part where in Return of the Jedi where they're like, you have this race that you find on a planet, and this robot that you've had in the first couple movies, they think it's a god because he's like a golden, he's a golden colored. Yeah, like it's so typical, but it's like, oh man,
That's hilarious.
I wonder when he decided that he was gonna write it like that. Like,
And then C-3PO.
that's such a creative idea. Like, you don't see ideas in movies like that. Like, I know it doesn't seem like a big thing, but that whole like story arc is so creative. Like I've never really seen anything written like that before. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's so cool. I just thought that was so intriguing. But
I just realized people came to this video so we could tell them that Star Wars is good, surprisingly. So, final analysis: do we like the originals? Do they hold up as we remember them,
yes.
or are they better than how we remember them?
I told you for prep for this, when I was a kid and you'd hear the 20th Century Fox, the fanfare at the beginning, and every time I'd hear it, and it wouldn't even be Star Wars coming on, you just hear that music going, and you go in and you go, I'd run to the TV and see if it was Star Wars, because when I watched it at the theater, it was that, and then the next thing you saw on the screen was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. But 20th Century Fox made all kinds of movies. That was just neat to see. Every time I close my eyes and hear that, that's what I'm thinking is coming up next is Star Wars.
but like, to me, I think they still hold up. Like that. Like I was in the middle of something. Like I was pretty busy, but like the third one, I literally was like, dude, I can't really walk away. Like,
For real,
it has some of the most iconic lines, iconic
The third
scenes.
is why Star Wars became.
The
Such a
third
huge thing.
one solidified.
Yeah.
The first and third one really hold the franchise together, but the second one is very important. And
The second one is the best, in my opinion.
yes, I would say the second one is the best, but the first and third are like the blockbuster hits. Like they have the most memorable stuff.
Really,
Well, the
I
first
think-
one in and of itself
Was
can be a
But
movie.
the second one's the best one because you have Lando.
like
Just
Well, you've got that movie because once he made the first one, not knowing if it would make money or if it would be a flop, once it was made and made millions of dollars, he realized that now I can finish telling my story and make the second and third one. The first one, in and of itself, was could have been a movie that just a standalone.
can we just talk about this? It's a trap. That's literally.
so. It's a thumbs up from us here at Cooking with Bubba.
The video. It's a trap.
So, thank you for watching. We plan on doing more of these in the future. I think we're going to finish up the Star Wars franchise first.
And just in time for The Rise of Skywalker before it hits the theater. So
Right.
prequels are coming up next.
So, like,
Dude,
subscribe.
it's the last movie. Sad.
All right, check us next time.
Thank you for watching. Goodbye.